In ancient times, outside the large architectural structures, say palaces or the temples, we could see the images of well-dressed yakshinis, pehredars, or the river goddess Ganga Yamuna. But nowadays, the poor images of the homeless, disprivileged people outside the large structures are very common. So this is the Rani Kamlapati station, earlier known as Habibganj station. This is arguably one of the most developed railway stations out there. And here I arrived at 12 in the night, and I was looking for a dormitory, which actually costed me around 500 rupees for 3 hours. And it was so insane to see that all of the benches which were there in the waiting room, either in the waiting room inside the hall which was closed or in the open area which was so large, had dividers on them. And what was the purpose? So as to not let the people sleep on them. And what did it lead to? It made the people sleep on the floor. People couldn't sleep on the benches despite being the benches vacant. So it was so insane to see that all of the benches out there were vacant because of the dividers. It is actually called as hostile architecture or defensive architecture, or anti-homeless architecture, wherein the architecture is consciously made or shaped in such a way that the lower class of the society, lower sections, backward sections, cannot avail the public spaces. Such is the design of public spaces. It goes against the idea of social justice and welfareism, and I hope the government would take note of it and would make the infrastructure according to the local realities. So these are some examples or representations of the hostile infrastructure. As we can see the uh, images on the screens, there are spikes, raised bars, ridges, again the pointed spikes on the benches so that nobody can sit there. People are sleeping on the floor, on the pavements because of the spikes. They are just outside the showrooms or the stores. The seats have very awkward inclinations or curves, and they are slant. There are unorthodox benches in the form of the cylinders. There are unnecessary pots serving as the dividers, fenced grates. These all are the examples of the hostile architecture that is not good for these people. Those are there on the streets, on the pavements, the homeless people. भाई साहब कहाँ जाओगे आप? ट्रेन नहीं है क्या? ट्रेन कितने बजे? ट्रेन कितने बजे आगरा की? ट्रेन तो नहीं आएंगे, ट्रेन तो क्या ये क्यों नहीं रहे सोने दे रहे यहाँ पे? हाँ दोपहर का सो रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, आ जाता दोपहर को। हाँ तब उसने टिकट मना कर दी थी कि मत लो। तो टिकट नहीं ली क्या आपने? अब लूँगा टिकट। गाली वाली दे रहा था ये। क्या गाली दे रहा है और क्या करें? कुछ बोला नहीं आपने? क्या बोली आप उससे? हाँ कह रहे तमीज से तो बात कर, ऐसे गाली मत दे, तू वर्दी पहना हुआ है गाली दे रहा है। हाँ वो हमको नसीबा सुने थे ना ऐसा। मतलब इतनी बड़ी जगह है, इतना बड़ा वो है, अपन बैठ भी नहीं सकते क्या? सो भी नहीं सकते? So what happens is that when I was at the railway station looking for a dorm where I could sleep, what happens is that I hear the sound of a cop. So there was this cop who was approaching the man, and he used the most abusive words that are there in the Hindi swear word dictionary. He referred to the mother and sister of that man and used the most nastiest language possible. And what was the crime of that man? It was just that because he is homeless, he cannot afford the dorm, so he was just sitting there. He was sleeping there on the empty space. It is very spacious, very monumental and magnificent railway station, and it's sheer uh, tragedy or irony that a person cannot even sleep there. Of course, that man did not have the requisite ticket that you need to have so as to enter the station. So that was one thing. But another thing is ki you should have the basic sympathy and compassion when you are dealing with the miscreants. He wasn't a miscreant even. Of course, he did not follow the rules. He did. I don't think he committed a big crime, but the words that came out of the person wearing the worthy uniform didn't suit him, and in some way was also disrespectful, not to that man only but also to that cop. And this was the reason, although I am very much nationalistic, I respected the defense forces, the people there, and just by the look of them I get goosebumps. But intuitively, instinctively, I also refer to him not so respectfully because of the behavior that he showed for that poor man. And this is what happens with the people who are homeless. And in this video we will also try to link this topic with the decoloniality. Why? Because the model, standard, the paradigm and design of the developmental structures, projects or the infrastructure in India is a copy of the West. There is no two ways about it. What happens in West would happen in India, say 10 or 20 years uh, forward. Okay, so what happens is that we have copied the model of the development from the West, and now what we are doing is that we are also making the hostile architecture in the name of the defensive architecture in India. But realities in India are different. Realities in India are different. Railway suffers from a lot of problems. For example, the delays in the train. Okay, India has a stark poverty and inequalities. That is another thing. So India afford to have hostile architecture or not? Or not? This particular clip that I showed you, it did not have any hostile architecture, but it had something, and what it had no architecture. So having no architecture at all, I mean having no amenities and facilities for the backward and disadvantaged section of the society, for the homeless, is again a type of hostile architecture. Okay, so this is a very nice concept, and this was there in my mind before also. But the journey from Nizamuddin railway station to the Rani Kamlapati station provide me a trigger and the final nudge to finally speak on this topic and make you aware about it, because more and more examples and replications or emulations or incorporations of this hostile architecture are going to be seen in the coming future in India as the development takes place. And we we Indians who have stark inequalities in our society cannot afford to have such kind of architecture. This is only what I wanted to say, and rest is up to you. It was just the sharing of the perspective and observations. You are free to make your own views. That's it. Yeah, just one more thing. In the next 30 to 35 minutes, I will take you through the various examples of the hostile architecture. Okay, so before I do that, before I start the screen recording and take you through the various examples of the hostile architecture or defensive architecture or the anti-homeless architecture, let me tell you just one more amazing observation from this small clip wherein the cop was actually using harsh words for the man and was kicking him out of the station. So what this tells is not only the economic infrastructure or architecture is hostile towards the homeless people who are of course helpless, powerless and disprivileged, but also the social superstructure is hostile towards them. This is very amazing. Listen it again if you didn't get it. So it was Marx who gave this concept of the economic infrastructure and the social superstructure. He said that
He was an economic determinist. We all know that. He said that it is the economy, the material things, the money, which it decides everything. So there is the economic infrastructure, and on above it is shaped the social superstructure. What would the social superstructure have? The family, the religion, the politics, the power that you have, the law and order, and the respect that you get in the society, the status, prestige that you enjoy, are all the part of the social superstructure. Now, what decides that? It is decided by the economic infrastructure, like how much power, how much economic power do you have, how wealthy you are. If you are wealthy, you have got the money, then people would respect you. You would have high status, you know well, good contacts, good social capital. So this is the concept. This is where the concept of economic infrastructure comes from. Okay, so my observation through this clip, my observation on this clip was not only the, because this video is about the hostile architecture. Architecture is the part of the infrastructure. Let's call it the economic infrastructure. So not only the infrastructure is hostile towards the homeless people, because it is not letting them sleep, it's not letting them get rest, get the not the enjoyment, but the basic amenities, facilities. That is hostile towards them. We agree that intentionally it is hostile. The further clips in the video, in the subsequent parts, we will make it more clearer. But what we are seeing, that even the social superstar, that is the cop, who's the part of the institution of law and order, that is the police system, even they are hostile towards the homeless people. And this is why we say that the perception of the police is not good, and they are usually labeled with the names. I won't take them here. And they are not respected well. Why? Because they use harsh words. The behavior towards the poor people is not sympathetic and empathetic at all. No, not at all. And towards the people who have a high economic capital, the wealthy people, politicians, they do not do much. This is the public perception, and to some extent, this is true also. So again, I repeat it, for the poor man, for the disprivileged section of the society and the homeless guys, not only the economic infrastructure or the architecture is hostile, but also the social superstructure. And in the social superstructure is not only the police, but also the society. And who the society is comprised of, we the people, the middle class people, the upper class people, they also have got no sympathy towards the homeless people. They are totally apathetic towards them. They would get down their car and walk inside the station, not give an eye a single thought, let alone the sympathy, and forget about the empathy for the people who in the chilly winter are sleeping under the blankets in the open area on the floor. So yeah, now without wasting any more time, let us start the screen recording, wherein we will be going through the uh, various forms of hostile architecture. So, if we are to link this concept with the decoloniality, then we can say that India has its unique problems, has unique realities, and so as to present them in the numerical terms, numerically. Firstly, India has large population. Secondly, India has this developmental gap. Thirdly, India has stark poverty and inequalities. Unlike West, it is not there in West. Fourthly, the state is unable to sufficiently and adequately cater to the needs and the basic rights of the poor people. Okay, so this is another thing. The affirmative or the positive discrimination that state does is just insufficient. It is doing great though, but still it is insufficient to cater to the basic needs of the people. Thus, it is not prudent, judicious, and right to slavishly, to mindlessly imitate the West when it comes to the architecture, when it comes to the developmental structures and the projects. You cannot mindlessly imitate the Western practices and the Western designs. In the West, they can do it because they have got various programs running for the poor people. They provide them the shelter homes and all. Though India is also doing it, but India has large population. Okay, so there are some other realities, for example the huge delays in the trains. Okay, so because of these unique realities, Indian architects cannot mindlessly and ditto, exactly copy or imitate the western designs in India. That is not good. Thus the architects, civil engineers, policy designers need the inputs by the sociologists, of the inputs of the social observers, so as to make the policies inclusive, so as to make the implementation of the policies inclusive and the one that conforms with the ground realities. That is it. Thank you for listening. See you in another video. Jai Hind.